Welcome to Speaking of Love, the podcast, with your host, Latoya. This podcast was created as a platform for spreading love. Hey, podcast family! For nearly 25 years, Michael Van Tull has graced the Detroit radio airways with his skills and talents. Working under the direct leadership of the beautiful Missionry Hattie Humphrey, Community Highlights and the Michael Van Tull Show enraptures the hearts of Detroiters every Sunday morning on the Detroit Praise Network. In this exclusive interview, jazz poet Michael Van Tull will talk candidly about his accomplished life. He's the founder of Michigan Ocean Strategy Group. He's also a published author and a former bank manager. Michael will also share his passion for serving as an honorary board member of Franklin Wright Settlements, a position with which he holds very sacredly. Are you ready for an eye-opening and inspiring episode of Speaking of Love, the podcast? If so, tune in this Saturday, October 17th at 12 o'clock noon as I sit down for a heart-to-heart conversation with one of the world's greatest poets and my mentor and Detroit radio icon, Michael Van Tull. We hope to see you there. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Latoya, and I am the host of this podcast. This podcast is called Speaking of Love. I am here today in honor of my father, Herman McAlpin. My father committed suicide on March 2nd of this year, and my dad was a radio TV broadcast engineer in the city of Detroit. He had a 30-year career. He was an award-winning radio show host. And his radio show was called Speaking of Sports many years ago. And so I have adopted his philosophy and I have created this platform in honor of him and to spread love called Speaking of Sports. So welcome here. And today I have a phenomenal man, an icon, a Detroit radio icon, Mr. Michael Van Tull. Welcome to Speaking of Love, Michael Van Tull. How are you today?
Great. Thank you so much for inviting me. And your dad, he was a legend on Detroit radio and TV. So a great person to learn from and know. So
yes, thank you so much. And speaking of my dad, I'm going to add his photograph in the top corner of this broadcast here. So he will be looking down on us for the duration of the interview. So Michael, let me give our audience a little history about you and I. You are a radio show host, the Michael Van Tull Show. It comes on every Sunday morning on the Detroit Praise Network, 99.9 FM Detroit. Mm-hmm. So about 2 years ago, I came onto your radio show for the sole purpose of promoting my door hanger.
Right.
I came on the show just to promote my artwork, to promote my business, and you interviewed me about my business. And from that interview, I guess God had other plans.
All I know is that I listened to the way you spoke, how professional you were, how you had everything organized. And I said, you know what? She needs to be on my show. She's going to add to my show and make my show look great if she was my co-host. And wanted you as a co-host immediately. So thank you for agreeing to be my co-host. I know you've got a new mission now with suicide prevention, which is really important, and I'd love to work with you on that more in the future too. That's one of my plans, my future plans. But thanks for also now stepping in to be a substitute host for me whenever I take a trip, go away, or take a break from the show one day. So thank you so much. And it's been a great pleasure to have you part of the Michael Van Tull Show and the Sunday morning team.
Well, thank you, Michael. Working on the Michael Van Tull Show and Community Highlights with Missionry Hattie Humphrey has been one of the greatest highlights of my life. And I owe a debt of gratitude to you for seeing me as someone worthy enough to be a part of your sacred platform. Absolutely. So I want to thank you. And sitting beside you as your co-host on the radio show every
Wow.
Sunday
Thank
morning.
you.
It was just so fun. It was a complete blessing. And
Thank you.
we're going to continue to work together
Yeah.
professionally. But today I want to talk more and learn more about my mentor, this Detroit legend. You're an icon here in Detroit.
Wow.
And I want to know, Michael,
Yes.
how did your radio career start?
With Missionary Hattie Humphrey, um, I did a poem. I write and perform poetry also. So I did a poem and read it, recited it at her annual birthday banquet, which is a huge thing now after all these years. It's almost like a political banquet now. But I read a poem, and then she said afterwards, she said, "Can you come on the radio show with me uh, on Sunday morning, the next morning?" So I said, sure. And when I came on, uh, I, she's actually had to step away, and her co-host at the time, one of the attorneys, they had to step away. There was a problem in the studio, and they left me by myself on the air talking, and I had to. So I learned by fire. So I had to carry the show while they stepped away out of the studio for about, I don't know. It seemed like an hour, but it was about 5 minutes, and then they came back. So I learned under fire. I learned how to keep talking, and then when I left, she said, "I'll see you next Sunday." And I said, "Oh, I thought it was just today." And she said, "No, I want you to be my co-host every Sunday." And this was like about 20 years ago. So I've been on her co-host ever since. Never missed a year, never missed a month, and it's been a pleasure and it's an honor to be Missionary Hattie Humphrey's co-host. But then I branched out, did my own show, went over to another station, did a show, and now we're still back together, and we take turns. One Sunday it's the Michael Van Tull show, then the next Sunday it's Community Highlights with Hattie Humphrey, and then the next week it's the Michael Van Tull show. So we take turns. So I'm still with her after all these years, and it's been great. That's how
Michael,
I started out.
it sounds like she set you up for success.
Oh, it's
And
a whole new life. Yeah, new
she
life.
she gave you a lesson in excellence
Yeah.
because you did the same thing to me. I remember one Sunday morning, you and I were scheduled to go on the air. I was your co-host. You were the host of the Michael Van Tull show, and you and I were scheduled to start at 7:30 a.m. Well, this particular Sunday morning at 7:30, you texted me like at 7:28 and says, "You know what, Latoya, I'm gonna be late today. Just run the
Did I
show."
do that?
You,
Did I
yeah,
do
you,
that?
you said you got this, and I'm like sweating. I'm all nervous, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And you go, yeah,
Oh
I'm gonna
yes,
be
I
late.
remember.
I'm not sure what time I'll be there. I'll be late. You got this. And all the while, I found out later that you weren't running late. You were actually sitting in the parking lot of the radio station,
Yes, I
sitting
was
in
in the
your car.
car. I was
Yep.
listening to it.
Yeah.
Yes, and you did great.
You set me up for
That was not
greatness.
intentional. It was not intentional. I was running late, but I wasn't running as late as I thought I was. And then when I got in the studio, the listeners did not believe that I was even. They didn't believe that I was in the car. They thought I was in the studio and I was just doing that for fun. But I was out of the studio at the time. But you did great, and you did a great job. So
And
yeah.
I'm glad that you did that because it gave me the confidence that I needed to know that I can do this on my own without Michael. So thank you for giving me that scare.
Great. It works, doesn't it? It
It
works.
does. It
Yeah.
does.
While learning under fire, from experience, you learn it from real experience, and it works. Yeah.
Now, Michael, you have been the founder of Michigan Ocean Strategy Group. Can you talk to our audience a little bit about what that is and what
Well,
kind of services you
I,
provide?
I, my real career is a banker. So I've been a banker for 32 years. Started out as a floating teller, covering tellers who are sick, and I fill in for them. Then I went to head teller or cash teller, where I was the teller supervisor. Then assistant manager and manager. So after 32 years, I went, up the ladder to branch manager, and then I guess I kind of retired in 2014, and so now I went into business for myself back in 2014 and started Michigan Ocean Strategy Group. I still had the contacts that I had at the bank, and I learned a lot. They should have never taught me all this stuff. So after 32 years, I was at Comerica and Flagstar, and I took all what I learned and put it right here. I'm in my office right now, and put it to use as a business consultant. So 50% of Michigan Ocean is radio advertising, radio production, and the other 50% of the business is business support services, helping business owners and their small businesses to become more successful. And it it's generic. There's just so many different things. It's not any one piece of consulting that I do. I just sit down with the business owner. They tell me about their business. I tell them about my experience and what I can do, and then we uh, try to come to a place where we drop a contract and I can help them to do whatever it is that they want to do, whether it's telemarketing, um, helping them to start the business, improving customer service, getting financial support. I have 15 alternative lenders that I work with. Social media support, nonprofit, help them set up the nonprofit. So it ranges. It's different with every customer. It's different. Yep.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's a wonderful service you provide there, Michael, because so many people don't know where to go when they're searching for those types of
Yeah.
financial services. And not only that, but you have to find someone reputable that you can trust, because you know when it comes to
Yeah.
money, there's a lot of
Mhm.
fraud that's involved with money. So when you have someone working with you, you need a person of integrity, and you
That's
are
right.
just
That's right.
you're the
And
person.
well, thank you. And my customers, they can just come here and meet with me and just to talk about what they plan on doing. Because sometimes people that just need some advice, or just need to talk it over with somebody, consult with somebody on something, and that's what we do. And I'm not trying to make a buck or a deal with every client that comes in. That's not how I operate, and that's not what a reputable banker does or did in my 32 years. So it's not about trying to get a deal off of everybody that comes in. I'm just
Mhm.
trying to uh, help and give some support and for a lot of the things that I've learned over the last 32 years.
Wow, that's wonderful, Michael. Now, in addition to all of these professional hats that you wear, you also have the gift of poetry. You've been blessed with the gift of being able to be a phenomenal poet. And I understand you've written a book. Talk to me a little bit about when your journey as a poet began, and tell me about your book, Speak on It.
Speak on it. I wrote this uh, back when I was in high school at Cass Tech. Um, I would write poems to some friends. I wrote a poem when my mother-in-law died, and the reaction I got from people, they were like, you should do something about this. You should go and read this. You should perform it. You should do, you should recite. You should have a recital. And they were, but I wanted to find out. These were my friends and family. I wanted to find out from a real Detroit audience. So I decided to go out to some of the cafes, and the first place I went was Cafe Mahogany downtown. That was the joint back in the day. I mean, when I was there at the height, when you could not even find a place to sit, you had to sit on the floor. That's how crowded it was. They had radio
Wow.
celebrities in there. It was packed to the joint, and so I learned, and the reaction I got after when I went on stage was crazy. It was so crazy. I didn't even believe that they were clapping for me or snapping for me. Um, and so it was distracting at first, but then I learned how to continue on without the distraction, and realized that they really did like it, and I took it very seriously after that and started to copyright it and kept writing and writing. Sometimes I would write uh, two or three or four in one night, sitting at my dining room table. The words just came out, and I know this was divinely inspired because I just sat there and the words just came through, and I just wrote them out, page after page. And after I got about 80 poems, I put it in a book and had it published. I want to thank the David Goff and the Goff family and Duran Records and Affirmation Publishing. I didn't have to leave town to get a recording or a publishing contract. I got it right here in Detroit, and I did not have to spend one dime. They put everything together. One of the copies of the book's right behind me, and I have enough to do probably two more books. I have enough to do for sure to do another book right now, and it's currently at the publisher putting it together. Hopefully, COVID slowed everything down, so maybe by next year I'll have the second collection ready. So that's how it started.
Well, Michael, I know that you are affectionately known as Jazz Poet. Can you talk to me about
Hmm.
what that means and the significance behind the name Jazz Poet?
Well, when I was at Cafe Mahogany, there were some great poets. Everybody was doing something different, and I had to do something different. I couldn't just get up there and uh, read a poem. That just didn't not with what the competition and the variety of poetry down at Cafe Mahogany. So one day I told the DJ, just give me a beat, and I just started doing them to music ever since. I very rarely just read one out. I could tell you why, because when I was writing my poetry, I realized that it had a rhythm to it. Like for instance, this one's called "Bring You Back." It's in the book, and it's got its own rhythm to it. It's like I true love can be fleeting, and no two are the same. Wanting is torture, a love lost is pain. Love songs seem to haunt me. Passion falls like rain. When I listen to love songs, sometimes I cry from the pain. I listen to love songs over and over and over again. Vivid color visions. Feels like I'm going insane. And I wish that I could bring you back. I wish that I could bring you back. I said, I wish that I could. I wish that I could bring you back. I said, I wish that I could bring you back. I said, I wish that I could. It had some rhythm to it. So I just
Yes,
started
yes, I love
doing
it.
everything with it. And so I had a DJ that went out with me. Sometimes I did it with a live band, like at Baker's Keyboard Lounge, and other
Wow.
places. But mostly I go with my DJ Gam backs me up, and and you've been to some of my performances, like the set I had at the restaurant in Southfield last year, every Tuesday night,
Mhm,
and I'm looking forward. I
mhm.
can't wait till COVID's over so I can get back out on the road and do some of my jazz poetry.
And Michael, you're very gifted in the area. Anybody can stand up and recite a poem, but you do it with such passion and such love, and you're really into it. Like you're almost in
Mhm.
a trance. When I see you on
Yeah.
stage, I don't see the Michael Van Tull that's in front of the microphone in the radio studio. I see a man who is enraptured in love, and he's doing his poetry, and your words are different, and your speech is slower, and you dance with it. I mean, you've got it all together there, let me tell you.
Well, thanks. And I think it's what got me through banking in 32 years because I would do trust me, I would be in a banker's suit, conservative banker during the day. But once I left and the sun went down a little bit and I was at the jazz club, I just turned into this jazz poet. So I would transform from this conservative banker during the day, processing all these loan applications and stuff, and just boring banker job. But at night, I turned into the jazz poet. And I think that's what kept me going all these years. And I'm so glad, because I did not want to be no boring banker at all.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Michael, what do you love most about your profession and why?
Now I like the freedom to come and go. Like, I just decided to come to the office today. I can, that freedom. Once you get the freedom and have your own business to come and go as you like and to make your own decisions, you don't have to answer to anybody. I answer to my customers.
Yeah.
But, after 32 years of getting up, being the manager, doing annual reviews, 6-month reviews, hiring, firing. I did all that stuff, making decisions in the bank branch. After 32 years of that, and all those, the combinations, opening vaults, counting money, and be careful what you pray for, because when I was a early teen, I prayed to God that I would have all the money in the world, that money would be flowing through my hands. I would be surrounded by money. I'll have all the money I ever want. And I wasn't specific in my prayer, and He made me a bank teller. I had all the money. I got everything I prayed for. Everything I prayed for. I should have said, for me, my own, for me and my family, so that I can have a good income for me and my
Yeah.
family, that it would be my income, my money, like that, But so be careful, be specific when you pray. But
Yes,
I love my job
definitely.
though, as a bank.
You know, Michael, they said there's a saying that goes, no man is successful in business unless he loves his work. And you're a man who loves your work, and I see you as this successful Detroit icon. What does the success mean to you? How do you define success?
Well, I think one of the things, like we said, you got to be happy. It's about happiness. You got to be happy. Um, you have to be rewarded for what you do, and um, you know, and then you have to have enough to do a little extra on the side if you want to take a vacation. Uh, that's part of the happiness factor. You got to be happy and be rewarded for what you create or what you do. Um, that's my thing. You gotta enjoy what you're doing, and you got to be rewarded for the work that you do. I think it's somewhere in the Bible. I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm a preacher's kid, but I'm a poet, not a preacher. Um, but you just have to. You are. The Bible says something about work, an honest day's work, and make a living, and enjoy what you do. So that's it for me. I mean, I know it's not all like this nice philosophical statement to make, but
Sure,
that's what
sure.
I found. That's my answer.
Yes. And I asked that question on my podcast because success means something different to every person. So I always like to dig in and find out every person's
Mhm.
individual definition of success. So, Michael,
Mhm.
we talked a little bit
Yes.
earlier about missionary Hattie Humphrey and how the two of you have worked together for many years. What's the greatest lesson that
Mhm.
you've learned working under missionaries' leadership?
Um, about friendship, about friends. Uh, I found out that her friends, the, she would have met them a long time ago, and she would have helped them with something in the past, and they might have even helped her at some point. They would be keep in touch, um, and they would have a relationship, and it evolved over time. That's what I found out from her. The
Mm,
biggest lesson, the most valuable lesson I found out from her was that the friendships are relationships that start at some point. The reason I said that is because somebody asked me the other day, Mike, how does she do all this? How does she do this? How does she do her banquets? How does she do the radio show? Tell me about that. And I resisted giving away our secrets. And
Mm-hmm.
then one day I said, you know what? Let me answer that pastor when he calls me the next time and asks me a question like that. So he called me and he asked me again, Mike, how does she do this? So I said, you know what? Let me tell you what she does. Uh, what do you want to do? You want to start a radio show? You want to do a banquet, a birthday banquet in your honor? Get 10 of your best friends together. Tell them to write you a check for $500. Let them know what you want to do, and um, start there. And when you get those 10 people that write you a check for $500, call me, and then I'll let you know what the next step. So he called me after 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks later. He called me and said, Mike, I appreciate what you told me, but I couldn't find 10 people that would write me a check for 500. And I hope he realized that you cannot just instantly call somebody and ask them to write you a check for 500 without building a friendship or relationship over time. So
Of
what
course.
missionary Hattie
Of course.
Humphrey can do, she can do it. She can easily find 10 people to write her a check for 500. She can probably find 15 or 20 because she knew them a long time ago, and she probably helped them with something a long time ago. They've helped her. She built a relationship with them. So when she calls them up and says, "Hey, Mike Van Tull, can you write me a check for $500?" I'm going to think about that, and I'm going to remember, oh, you know what? She she helped me with something, and I've known her for a long time. I I'll see what I can do. I'm gonna help her. I'm gonna send her a check because I believe in the project she's working on. I believe in what she's doing. So I'm gonna write her a check because I know that it's gonna benefit me. I'm gonna feel good about doing something, and it's gonna benefit me down the line. But what a lot of people don't understand is that you cannot expect to just call somebody up and ask them to do something for you when there's no relationship, there's no
Yeah.
friendship. The world doesn't function like that. You have to have a real friendship or relationship in order to get things done.
Yes, we do. We do. And Michael, I look at you and I'm so inspired by you. You have really given me so much over the short time that we've been acquainted with each other. And on the topic of friendship,
Thank you.
I do consider you to be a very good friend of mine. And you know that I'm here and I have your back. I'm in all four of your corners for anything you need. Personally, professionally, I'm here for you. But Michael, I want to go back and talk a little more about the radio
Thank
show.
you.
When I was sitting next to you on the Michael Van Tull
Yeah.
show, it was the highlight of my life every Sunday morning, and I enjoyed reading those commercial ads calling Emerson Rogers, "Free yourself from debt." Are you afraid to open your mail, Michael? Are you
Oh,
afraid
my
that
good
creditors
friend.
are calling you? Free yourself was his
Yes.
favorite. That was his professional motto. Do you have a
My
professional
good
motto
friend,
that you go
attorney
by?
Emerson Rogers. Yes.
Yes. Do you have a motto? A
Look,
professional
I
motto?
um let me think about this. I don't know. I think it's just professionalism, consistency. That I don't know. That's the closest
Mhm.
I can think of. Being consistent, being professional. Um, that's it.
Mhm.
Consistency and professionalism. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
So,
But
Mike,
you keep telling me stuff, building up my ego is already out of control, and when you tell me all this stuff, it's like hard for me to stay level here. So I thank you. You're too kind. I really appreciate it. But then I wanted you as my co-host because of the way you what you're doing right now. This Speaking of Love podcast is so well done. It's so professionally done. You're such a great speaker and interviewer. You're asking me stuff that a lot of people haven't asked me, and I'm enjoying this conversation, and that's the reason why. So I want to like turn the tables and put the spotlight on you. You have a lot going for you, lady, and I enjoy working with you every minute of the day.
Well, Michael, I want to say this
So how's
publicly
that?
here.
It's
I want to say this publicly here in front of everyone. I would not be here sitting in this chair right now on a podcast, speaking of love, honoring my father, if it had not been for you believing in me and giving me the opportunity to be on your radio show. Because being on the Michael Van Tull show gave me the confidence and the ability to go forward and to move on my own and find my way in media broadcasting. So you set the platform for me. And another reason why my dad is so significant is because my father was one of the original founders of WGPR Radio TV in Detroit, which is the first Black owned radio station, TV station in America. So my dad had a radio show called Speaking of Sports many years ago, and I always wanted to be like my dad. I always wanted to be a photographer. He was
Mhm.
very good with taking pictures. I wanted to be on the radio. I wanted to be on media, but my career path went in a different direction. I worked in education for over 20 years. So for me to come back now at the age of 45
Mhm.
years old and to do your radio show helped me honor a desire that had been within me for many years that my dad gave me. So all of this, if you look at it from a broader spectrum, this was all divine order for me to be
Yes,
on
it
your
came full
show,
circle.
for me. Yes, yes, it came full circle, and nobody ever imagined that my dad would die in such a horrible way. And for him to pass away and everything that has happened from then until now, it's all divine order. And I'm just so thankful that God allowed my path to cross with yours and my Aunt Catherine and everybody that was involved in getting us together for that one interview
Yes,
just to promote my business. We
yes,
went for one interview to
yeah.
promote my business. And here we are today. So I thank you so much,
I know,
Michael. Thank you.
and I thank you. And I just want to say, me, missionary, and I had the community highlights program was on WGPR for many years, so we are familiar with WGPR. Mr. Matthew, Mr. Dogan, Mr. Green, all those great people down at the WGPR. So we really enjoyed that. And I'm telling you right now, I as I said when we first started, uh, I want to lend my support, and I'll be contacting you soon. I want to support you in your efforts to for suicide prevention and awareness, the
Yeah.
struggle and the fight. I want to work with
Mhm.
you on that also.
Yes,
I
it's a
promise
very
you.
Yes, yes, thank you. It's a very complex matter, and it's especially difficult for me because my dad not only committed suicide, but he murdered his wife moments before he killed himself. So my situation is more complex because I'm dealing with the grief of losing my father, but I also have to deal with the shame and the embarrassment and the disappointment of him killing someone else. So it's a very complex
Yeah.
subject matter, and I want to bring awareness. I have joined several advocacy groups for suicide awareness and prevention, for mental health awareness. So I am here for a divine purpose, and I don't want my father's death to be in vain. I don't. I want to honor his wife that really loved him. He was a beautiful person,
Hmm.
and I just want to honor both of them.
And that's why I think we should, as Americans, as people, we should get involved in things not just because it happened to us, but because we know that it's the right thing to do and we want to support other people. That's why I wrote my poem called Preacher, because it it was about supporting things that didn't happen to us, you know? Like, I don't, like, let's say, for instance, AIDS, AIDS awareness, AIDS prevention, fighting AIDS. Somebody asked me years ago to write a poem for AIDS hospital. This was at the height of the AIDS epidemic, a number of years ago, back in the early 80s. I don't ever know what happened, but I wrote the poem, uh, and it's in the book now. And I recorded. Matter of fact, I recorded the first 9 poems in the book are recorded on music, and you can go to YouTube and click on to just go to Michael Van Tull, VANTULL, and uh, you'll all the songs, all 9 of them are there on YouTube. You can listen to. They're the first 9 poems in the book set to music. But I wrote Preacher because I wanted to highlight things like AIDS, to join the fight, to help, to contribute, even though you don't have it or know somebody that has it, but you can help anyway. You
Yeah.
might not have anybody that committed suicide in your family, or threatened to commit suicide, but you can still join the fight and contribute and do what you can. I wrote this. It was called "If I Was a Preacher, I would only wear a robe when I get wet. First things first, I would open the doors to the church when they first come in, confront the sin, sing some hymns, especially for those who haven't been, and the has been, the next, and the next of kin. I'll sit so close to him I could smell the gin, help him win. If it was up to me, I'll let everybody come in if I was a preacher. And the part that I like the most is, if I was a preacher, I'll build a factory. I won't preach hate. I'll make crates so the unsaved can sit while they fake praise. Don't believe those stage plays. Listen to this catchy phrase. Why do only those with AIDS help the ones with AIDS? Feel my rage? The ones who could afford to pay drop a dime in the plate only when they get the plague. This little light of mine is ablaze. I can see clearly now through the smoke and haze. It comes from hell going up in flames. And in these last days called New Age, let's just say if I was a preacher, I would only wear a robe when I get wet. It's much
Wow.
longer, but
Wow. I
it's
love it.
a lot of lessons in there. But and I, of course, I do that to music too. But the one thing that started that off, and I don't know if you all got it. I was a preacher. I would go to church, and some people needed to speak to the pastor or go up to the altar the moment they got in. But a lot of churches follow this procedure and process, and they have to sing, pray, sing, talk a song. But somebody in that congregation, they don't need to, they're ready to go right up front and change their life. So that's why I wrote, if I was a preacher, I would open the doors to the church when they first come in, confront the
Wow.
sin, sing some hymns, especially for those who haven't been, and the has-beens, the next of kin sit so close to them I can smell the gin. I would let anybody come in. I don't care if you're not dressed up in a fancy outfit with, lapel, tie, and all this kind of stuff. You could come in with a t-shirt and jeans. I wanted to cut through all that and say, hey, if I was a preacher, come in right now. And if you want to turn your life over, come up to me right now. Come up to the altar right now. I'm a poet. Let me stop. You got it. That's the message to some of these preachers out here. That's the message to some of
Yeah.
these preachers out here. Stop with all of this formula, and get right to helping people. Stop the show. You
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
know, I went to, I'm drifting off to other stuff right now, but that's why my book's called Speak on It. Somebody got to say it. Okay. I went into the church one day and somebody was praying, and they really were, the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit was touching and speaking to them. And they told them to be quiet because they're getting ready to getting ready to go live. And it just reminded me of how it's so much of a show,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we got to get back to helping people, but that's another thing. All right,
Yes.
let's get back to
We definitely have to get back to
let's
saving
get back to
souls.
the interview.
Okay,
Mhm.
Michael, listen, speaking of love, the podcast is all about love. So on this podcast, I have to ask you the $1,000,000 question, and that is, how do you define love,
Okay.
Michael?
How do I define love?
Yes, sir.
That's it.
That's it. That's the question.
Um, it's about it's almost like the question about the friendship. It starts. It's a relationship. It's about um, caring about people. You have to care about people in general. Like a lot of things that happen nowadays, I don't understand how somebody can want to kill because you didn't put your signal on early enough when you were making a right or a left turn,
Yeah, yeah.
or you were sitting at a light in the road rage. The love is so powerful, so strong. It's from deep inside, and love is the only thing that change what's going on in our society right now. Love is deep inside, but love is about caring. It's about caring. It's about thinking about how other people would feel. It's sacrifice.
Yes.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's a good question. This is something that I'm searching for answers because I don't normally get asked this question.
Mm-hmm.
But love is sacrifice. Love is always thinking and caring about somebody else. It's about how you feel. And you have to, as you go about your day, you have to think about what is the impact of what you're doing is having around other people. And then you'll be very careful not to say or do things to hurt other people during the day. And when you realize, oh man, I forgot, I should have turned my signal on because I just frightened them by just turning here. I should have turned, little things like that. So you have to, slamming the door behind somebody, keep the door open, not to slam it in their face. Love is about thinking about other people all day long. That's wow. Let me write this down because I'm gonna have to do this for a poem one day. Love is about, yeah, it's about, and I used to do that. I don't do it much now, but sometimes I couldn't even take a bath. I had to have my notebook and pen on the floor in the bathroom when I took a bath so that I could remember the poems. I would have to
Mm-hmm.
take it with me on vacation, on the plane. I would have to always have my notebook and pen nearby in order to. But that's how we have to operate during the day. Operate in love. You have to constantly think about the impact that you're having on other people around you. Definitely gotta write that down. That's a poem right there.
Well, Michael, speaking
You're
of having,
inspiring me there, Latoya.
well, thank you. Speaking of inspiring and having an impact and spreading love, I also understand that you sit on the board for Franklin Wright Settlements. Can you talk to me about your affiliation with this phenomenal nonprofit and the things that you all do and the services you provide?
Absolutely. I want to thank the executive director and president, Monique Marks, for allowing me to be a part of this great organization. Um, and Franklin Wright Settlements is one of the largest and one of the oldest nonprofits in Michigan. We help low and moderate income families in Southeast Michigan, from early Head Start to teenagers. We have a group mentoring for teenagers. We have senior citizens programs each week. Um, we have a college tour that goes out. We have counselors that go to help families, uh, those who've been abused, those who are facing trauma in family relationships. We provide food, uh, help for the warmth, heat, all those things. And the reason why because my parents are retired Salvation Army officers. They were majors in the Salvation Army. Major, and this is Fred and Eloise Van Tull. And they still live here in Metro Detroit. Um, and the Salvation Army, of course, is very similar. Of course, the Salvation Army has a religious component to it, but it was the closest thing I could find to the Salvation Army. So that's
Mm.
why I have been a part, vice chairman of the board for Franklin Wright Settlements, also chairman of the uh, investment committee at Franklin Wright. But that's how I like to work and contribute to my community.
Mhm.
Everybody does it differently, and the way I do it is I get involved in things like this, like I was vice president of James Tatum Foundation for the Arts for many years. That's how I contribute. Some people get out here and they do all this big talking and they get picket signs and march. Uh, uh, in some place, sometimes that's good, but by the time we have to picket signs, it's too late. We have to get and be proactive and take action. We need, places, organizations like the NAACP need to sit down and have a strategy and be proactive and the take the fight. Don't just do the rope a dope like Muhammad Ali back in the day. These Our civilizations need to get out here and fight first. We need to get out here and get the legislation done, get these programs going, and don't wait until laws are passed and things are done and decisions are made. We come out with a picket sign, then we come out with a bullhorn, and we want to step up on a soapbox and start talking. No, that's too late. We need to take proactive. So those, and same thing with those politicians. Here I go off on another thing now. Those politicians, because I know a lot of people are going to be watching this, and instead of getting out here and trying to look for organizations that will endorse you when you run, why don't you work in the community now first? Then you have a resume. Then you have organizations that will endorse you. You don't have to try to buy endorsements or try to beg and wheel and deal and get companies, organizations to put on your flyers when you go out. Get out here and work first and do something. Then you can put that on your resume, on your little flyer or card when you go door to door. So, my message to these politicians that are out here that aren't doing anything, and then want to say they're doing all this stuff when they run for office, get out and work now. Don't even think about running. Get out here and volunteer and work. Go down to the soup kitchen, roll your sleeve up, serve some of the food, get on some of these organizations as a volunteer and work, like the Shar House for addicts, help some of the addicts and things like that, people who are addicted. Do some work first, then run for office. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get back.
Okay, Michael. Well, it has been a
Let's get
pleasure
back to.
interviewing you today.
I go
I
off on
have
these
enjoyed
tangents.
every I have enjoyed every moment of it. You are definitely a Detroit radio icon. You've built a successful life for yourself.
Thank you,
I want to know,
thank
Michael,
you.
when the pages of your life are reviewed, what do you want to be remembered for?
That question was asked the last time I was interviewed to work at a bank, and I had to keep stop from smiling and laughing because I was ready. They didn't even know it. I got the job too, and I recited this poem. Here's my, and it's the first poem in my book, the very first. It
Aww.
says, it's called Down Through the Ages, and it says, down through the ages, many have lived their lives and died, and others will have a chance in the days yet to come. We cannot waste this precious time. And while you breathe, stop. To the tortured, bring amnesty. I'm not trying to preach, but the killing has got to stop. We must learn to think love, breathe love, live love, morning, noon, and night. I've cried myself to sleep at night when they use God's name to take a life. I want to do whatever I can with the time that God has given, leave an eternal legacy, and wisely use the gifts that God left in trust with me. And to the strangers in foreign lands, we must take each other by the hand, forge an everlasting peace plan, feed the hungry, free the innocent. We cannot waste one precious life. Red, brown, green, yellow, black, and white, we are all precious in His sight. I want to leave that kind of a legacy.
All right. Yay! I love it. I love it. I love it. Michael
Okay,
Van Tull, it has been a
drop the mic.
pleasure. Drop the mic, okay? Michael, it has been a pleasure. I have decided to have you on this
Thank
episode
you.
today
Thank you,
because this is
Latoya.
this is my 25th episode. And the number 25, 25th, that's a very sacred number. So to have you here on
Congratulations.
this platform on my 25th
Congratulations.
episode, I
Congratulations.
could thank you. I couldn't have had a better person. You are the friend that every person
Thank you.
deserves to have in their life. And I just thank you for your
Thank
leadership,
you.
for your guidance, and I thank you for being a part of this divine intervention that was orchestrated by a higher power to put me in a position where I can honor the legacy of my dad, because my dad was a lot like you. He loved
Yeah.
people, he loved to interview, he loved to talk. So being here today is very sacred. This is not
And I'm
just
glad I could be a part of this great day.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much, Michael, for being here. And before we
Yeah.
go, I want to give a little accolade to our
Thank you.
viewers today. We have the hip hop deacon, Shane Respis. He's here watching us today. He said hello, peace, love, and God bless to
Oh,
you, Michael.
yeah.
Yes, he's
I
been
know
watching.
him very well. Peace, brother. All right.
We have Nanette Sims. She's a very good friend of mine and also a good friend of my aunt. Nanette Sims is just waving hello. And then we have
Great.
Catherine Bond
Thank you,
on.
Nanette.
Happy Sweetest Day, Latoya Sanders and Michael Van Tull. Thank you, and happy Sweetest
Thank you,
Day
Catherine.
to you as well. So thank
Great.
you so much,
Thank
Michael.
you. Happy
Before we
Sweetest
wrap
Day.
up,
Oh, Latoya, we forgot. We got to mention our Sunday morning team. We forgot to mention the Sunday
yes,
morning team. Uh,
yes.
Henrietta, Kimberly, Treva, and you and Christy Laster. Yes. So
Yes,
I
the
don't want to get
Sunday
in
morning.
trouble. I'll get beat up.
My radio family, I love you all. I love you
Yeah.
all. Definitely. Definitely. And I have to get the rest of the
And
team
Missionary
on
Humphrey.
board too. Oh yes, definitely missionary. We opened up the show talking about her and her leadership. So we love you all. And I thank you so
Yes.
much for being here, Michael. And if anyone wants to get in contact with Michael Van
Thank you.
Tull, I'm going to post his information here in the comment thread so that you can reach out to him if you want to talk about your business, financial aspects of your business through Michigan Ocean Strategy Group. He is here to help you.
Anything.
Yes. So this has been a beautiful 25th episode of Speaking of Love. Next Saturday, I will be back here at 12 o'clock noon for another episode of Speaking of Love. And I thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you all back here next Saturday. Have a great week, everyone.